And welcome once again to Community Viewpoint. I'm John Pollock, your host for this segment. And with me today, we have the good fortune of having Mason Vale with us. Mason is the executive director for the Amargosa Conservancy.
You got it.
Most of you look towards Vegas during your life here, but if we look to the west, we'll look at Tacoma, Shoshone, and the Amargosa Desert. And there's many more things that are out there that are beautiful, that we have people that look after those issues, those things for us and for now and for the future. And Mason is one of those people, and he, as the executive director of the American Conservancy, has the ability to explain these things to us so we can be more knowledgeable about those things before we lose them. So tell me a little bit about the Conservancy, what their mission is, basically.
Yeah, so we have the good fortune of celebrating our 20th year of being a conservancy. It's been a really long road, but our mission as a conservation nonprofit in the region has been to work toward a sustainable future for this incredible Amargosa River watershed, and we do so through kind of three pillars. We have science, stewardship, and advocacy, and all three of those things really work in harmony with one another. This is a remarkably vast, complex biodiversity hotspot, home to 40,000 people, all of it built on this same we're kind of one big river community out here. We don't always see the river, but when you think about water and the role it plays in this landscape, that's kind of the heart and soul of our organization, is to ensure that we have this kind of beauty and diversity and this beautiful home for we hope for generations to come.
Oh, definitely, yes. Because we almost lost it up in Ash Meadows back in the 60s, early 70s. They were farming up there and they wanted to make another community like Pahrump up there, but something happened. Some little fish called a devil's hole pupfish was able to stop that with the, what's it called?
The Endangered Species Act.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the pupfish. And plus we just had a Devil's Hole and Beyond conference. I've been going to that conference for probably a couple decades. It was called something else back then. It was more defined as just the pupfish and anything that belongs to the geography, the hydrology for the pupfish itself. And now you've expanded a little bit more, and it's called Devil's Hole and Beyond. You could bring that picture up of Mason sitting at the Devil's Hole so people know what all this is about, where the Devil's Hole pupfish lives. And the Devil's Hole pupfish is at a 20-year high, I think.
Yeah.
191 or 121?
I think we're north of 250 actually, so we're in really strong shape.
Okay.
So when people think about the Amargosa, if there's one kind of iconic species they might think about, it's probably the Devil's Hole pupfish, and it's because this species has a remarkable history. It's considered to be one of the most endangered species of fish on the planet. It lives in a single spring at the base of a mountain. This is a fish that has evolved in this really specific place for a long time, and there's not very many of them, and they have nowhere else to go. And that fish has been threatened over its entire history in the last century, especially because very vulnerable to impacts regarding groundwater pumping. And so there's a long story to be told just about the Devil's Hole pupfish, but this research symposium, as you said, has been kind of a long-standing get-together, mostly dedicated to conservation of that Devil's Hole species, which has taken so much time, energy, attention from so many people over the last few decades. And as part of that, we focus a lot on hydrology, right? Just what do we know about how groundwater is moving through this region? What impacts are we seeing based on recent developments, changes in the landscape? And so our organization was asked to host that symposium this year alongside the Bureau of Land Management. And we just, we adore the Devil's Hole pupfish, don't get me wrong. I love it. I mean, I had the chance to go down to the Devil's Hole, and that was a once-in-a-lifetime, unforgettable experience. But we want to acknowledge that there's so much more in the Amargosa that we feel really deserves research attention. I mean, we have a landscape that has as many as 70 endemic species, meaning species that don't live anywhere else in the world. We just have them here in the Amargosa. And we have so much more, right? We have interesting history. We've cultural history with our indigenous partners. We have the Old Spanish Trail. We have all these different items of interest. And so we just wanted to open the gates a little farther and invite researchers working in this remarkable region to come and present on their work. And it was 3 very full days. I certainly learned a ton, and we hope this is an event we can keep offering year over year, because it's a real touchstone for us as a conservation community to figure out what do we know, what don't we know, what questions are worth pursuing. And so it was a remarkable event this year.
Yes, it was, and well attended. And in the past, I had trouble staying awake on some of the speakers, because they spoke so high over me with their information. But this year is not that it was more entertaining, but they were able to get their point across a lot better. So I appreciate that. And it's called Devil's Hole and Beyond now. So that's what it is, and beyond. And I might mention that the poor little buggers were down to 35 one year. So that we're doing real well with what they're doing right now. There's other pupfish around, but they're not the same. They're in Shoshone, and there are other places also, but there's little idiosyncrasies about them. And there's other pupfish in Ash Meadows also that are related, but they are not the same. And there's a lot of stories about that, but that's a different show.
You can spend a whole life on that topic.
Yes. So they were endangered some time ago. We got over that very well. And we helped a lot of other species too, a lot of other birds and mammals and things like that with the Endangered Species Act too, so they should be very thankful. But now we have an issue that people are talking about drilling wells. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so about a year ago, we came across a project that was proposed by a Canadian mining company. They had staked mining claims on public land managed by the BLM in very close proximity to the wildlife refuge. And we noticed this project, and it looked really bad on paper, on the map. And we went out and walked around and really got a sense of the proximity. And this was immediately this hit us like a lightning bolt. They wanted to propose drilling of 30 holes up to 300 feet deep in an area within 1,500 feet of springs in the refuge that are home to multiple endangered species. But our big fear was, if this drilling goes not according to plan, if something happens where they were to encounter the aquifer under pressure and you cause water to move in a way that you don't expect, it doesn't take much of a change to really throw an ecosystem like Ash Meadows, which is so sensitive, into potential catastrophic change. And so, our organization kind of leapt into action, and thankfully the community's really rallied around us. It was amazing to see folks pour out of every corner who, just love Ash Meadows and didn't want to see a project like this go through without the necessary precautions being taken. We wanted to see a project like this handled with kid gloves. This is a delicate ecosystem, and we also have communities that live in the Amargosa Valley who depend on the same groundwater. And so we were really amazed to see the response last summer in light of that project. Ultimately, after 3 months of organizing, and we ended up actually litigating over the issue, the BLM did rescind their approval of that project, said, you know what, we got to treat this a little bit differently. That was a huge sigh of relief, but unfortunately that threat is ongoing. The mining company has come back with new plans for drilling in the same region, and it actually, in fact, just as recently as last week, the company came out and staked 8,000 acres of new claims, right around Amargosa Valley, within hundreds of feet of people's homes and businesses. So it's a huge, huge issue that we are doing everything we can in concert with the communities, Nye County, Amargosa Valley, Beatty, Timbisha, Shoshone, and many, many others. So it's a landscape under threat, but it's amazing to see the level of care people have shown for this region.
And things change too with on the federal level from whoever is in office too, as from the president on down, the attitude, the thought pattern changes about what's important. Is it the species, climate action on climate, is that more important, or is it the business side of it? Is money more worth it? And so without getting too political like I just did, you have to take into account for things like that. And there'll be people like ourselves, and there's people that are looking at the business side of it and looking for money, a quick buck. I wasn't taught that way. I was taught that way. If you want to make something for yourself, look for making money after the first year. You'll take a vacation and then look to get payback slowly, not the quick buck. And too many people are doing that nowadays.
Well, and we just want to, at the end of the day, want to see this kind of activity happen in the right places. You know, there's just got to be places where the value is such that we don't want to risk losing something like Ash Meadows or, you know, groundwater in one of the hottest and driest places on Earth. So
you're not going to bring it back.
You're not going to bring it back, and you know, once we change something with hydrology, we can't put it back together. And so, you know, we want to just see places like the Amargosa taken off the table from this kind of activity because, frankly, it's just there's too much to lose if something goes wrong.
So the lithium is going to be used in batteries, and God forbid they find something else to replace lithium. By the time that comes along in 5 years, 10 years, then all that was for nothing. And then there's a lot of pain and suffering and heartache in the meantime, and things may have died off because of that. And then you'll go, oh, there's something better than lithium.
Right. I mean, we really don't know what the future holds. I mean, you know, clearly lithium is an opportunity for the state of Nevada. You know, it's something that could be a growth driver in the state. But again, we just feel like we want to be smart about where we support this kind of extraction and where we don't. And you know, on the doorstep of Ash Meadows and Death Valley National Park, that doesn't feel like quite the right spot to us.
So if you want to become part of the Amargosa Conservancy, find out more about it, you have the information down there. You can call or just go to Amargosa Conservancy online and you'll find a wealth of knowledge for that. Or you can look at the pupfish, the devil's hole pupfish, to find out more and more about them. It's a very interesting story, but that's where I come from too.
Yeah.
So you have an office in Shoshone or no?
We no longer have an office.
Okay.
We're basically on the move all the time.
Okay.
But you can find us on social media as well, and our website. And it's the best way to get a hold of us.
All right. So Mason, thank you very much for stopping by today, spending some time with us. It's been very interesting, and we thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you next time. And welcome once again to Community Viewpoint. I'm here with Mason Vale, the Executive Director from the Amargosa Conservancy. You just listened to a whole bunch of information from my small bit from me, mostly from Mason, about the Amargosa Conservancy, what it's all about, and there's much more involved. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, obviously we're really concerned about the level of threat in the landscape right now, but we're also experiencing we've had a really remarkable spring in the desert, I would say. We're seeing some things that maybe we haven't seen either for a long time, maybe for the first time. The most notable being we had a lake form in Death Valley National Park this spring. If folks didn't have a chance to go out to see it, it was a sight to behold. Did you get out there, John, to go see the lake?
No, not this year, but that's Lake Manly.
Right.
It's called, and it was there for enough time for people to say, hey, I'm taking a boat down there.
And I'll be honest, I was one of those people. I got on there a couple times, and it was an unforgettable experience. I didn't know what to expect, but it was 6 miles long, and
yes.
It was an amazing experience, and it's a byproduct of big rain events that we had starting even last year. We had a Hurricane Hillary in August break landfall and drop enough water in the Amargosa to really saturate things, and that combined with these storms we've had over the last 4 or 5 months, it all adds up, right? And it all goes to the lowest point.
And it actually closed Death Valley for most of us for a while because they washed the roads out too. So then those are basically done. They're fixed. Most
of them are, but honestly, there are hundreds of miles in Death Valley that are probably not going to be fixed for a long time, if ever.
Go around.
So it just kind of shows us the power of nature to really shape this landscape. And in some ways, we wonder what that's going to do to wildlife and everything. But it's been really fun to see, especially species of pupfish, respond really positively. And we kind of have to remember that flooding is a part of the desert. It's part of what shaped this environment, and these species have been doing this for a long time. So they've been very successful at navigating those events in a remarkable way.
Yeah, there were different ways of trying to save the pupfish in the past. They tried to bring them up to, I'm picturing it right now, Lake Mead had a small aquarium up there that didn't work. There was another area in Ash Meadows, actually there are two of them, that didn't work for different reasons. That they kind of chuckle why one of them didn't work, but well, the fish got overheated. They fried them basically.
Right.
I'm sorry. And there's another one. They were mixed with another cousin of theirs in another area. I forget where it was, and they grew another fin, I believe it was, and they became another shoot or species.
Right. I mean,
I don't know what they did with those.
I mean, who knows? But for me, it's just I always marvel at, especially getting to be this time of year where it starts getting hot out, and you kind of walk around in the desert and go, how could anything possibly make it out here? But these species are so resilient. You know, we've got pupfish species that can persist in water up to 104 degrees, 3 times saltier than ocean water. So, I kind of love the Amargosa in Death Valley for that. There's a lot of resilient life out there.
Yes. And there was a fish that was similar to the pupfish that was in Pahrump. But they took some of them and put them in Vegas at a wildlife refuge up there.
Yeah, the Pahrump poolfish.
Poolfish,
yeah.
there they are. There they are. The fish that were in Pahrump didn't make it. I don't want to tell you why, but it had to do with their residents. But anyway.
Right. I mean, the other remarkable event this spring was the wildflower bloom. If folks didn't have a chance to get out and see it, we had. I mean, people aren't calling it a super bloom, but it felt pretty super to us. This is a picture out by actually Ash Meadows National Wildlife Refuge. I mean, just thousands of acres, miles and miles of wildflowers, which is such a sight because we're coming off of, we had a pretty good bloom last year, but as folks are likely aware, we've been in a season of tremendous drought in the West, and of course the Amargosa and Death Valley have been affected by that. And so, we were really excited to see life kind of rebound after the rain, and we're kind of bracing for potentially this new pattern we might see of periods of drought punctuated by big flood events, and we're kind of seeing the desert change in front of our eyes, and I think all of us are wondering how this is going to affect life moving forward. But when these blooms happen, and it's so special, I hope folks had a chance to get out and experience it, because you never know, you never see two blooms the same way, and you never might see it for a long time.
Well, I went into Vegas, took the north route on Monday this week when we're taping here, and where 95 intersects 160, the south end of the Nevada test site, which isn't called that anymore, but going up the mountains right there, about a third of the way up, it was just a yellow bloom. It may go up a little bit farther as the heat intensifies. But if you want to go out there now, there are different areas around the Amargosa, around the Mercury and those areas on the way to Vegas. You'll find the desert blooms out there.
Oh yeah, they're still out there, and especially getting up into places like the Kingston Range outside of Tacoma, California. It's one of our kind of larger sky islands. Right now we have a species they're called giant nolinas in bloom. These massive flowering plants, and so it's fun that we're entering that hot season, but you can still find this really wonderful abundance of life up in the mountains.
I forgot there's a lot of different things that are up in the Kingston, so over there if you haven't been up there, folks.
It's an amazing adventure place. And, right now, especially if folks haven't been out, I mean, it's getting hot, so of course you got to be careful and practice all those good, desert habits of drinking a lot of water and going out when it's cool. But the Amargosa Canyon right now is.
I was just going to ask you. You've been down there, right?
Yeah, it's right now. It's just vibrant, lush green. It's filled with mesquite, and we have a waterfall in the canyon. That we don't have many waterfalls in the Mojave Desert, but we have one here in the Amargosa. And right now, water's flowing like we've never seen it, just because of all the rain we've had this spring. So it's still a pretty magical time. And if you get a cool weekend, I'd really advise folks to go out to China Ranch and take a hike. I mean, it's still an amazing destination. Yeah,
I try to do it not in late July, early August. It gets a little bit too hot out there. But now is the perfect time because there's a little shop out there you can get date bread, date cookies, date shakes to die for, and other things too. But you could go along the Tonopah Tidewater, the railroad. The railroad, the tracks are gone naturally, but you could take hikes over there too and wind up in the center of town in Tacoma, where there's a lot of lively things happening there too. And this is all because it's in the part of the Amargosa, the river goes past there.
Right.
Yes.
Well, in the last segment, we talked a lot about Ash Meadows and the threats facing it, but it's been remarkable to me to talk to a lot of folks who just haven't really spent a lot of time at the refuge, and I can't recommend it strongly enough. This is a picture of Crystal Spring. It's one of the iconic springs in the refuge. There's a wonderful boardwalk trail. It's not very far.
It's magnificent. The colors, the turquoise, the colors are just fantastic.
Yeah, and this is actually me and my board of directors out at Ash Meadows this last year. I mean, this is just, it is hard to really, this is a iconic desert wetland. We have it right here in Nye County and 30 miles from Pahrump. So it's just an amazing place, and just can't recommend it enough to go out and explore, because this is our public land and it's one of the real gems of the Amargosa system. Now,
if you haven't been out there, you take Blag Street, Avenue, whatever you want to call it, on the way to the I'm thinking of the Opera House, the Amargosa Opera House, the same road that goes up there. And there are two entrances to the Ash Meadows over there. Take the second one, because the first one's really long. And then if you're going around to the hotel over there, which is
the Long Street.
Long Street. About 2 blocks north of that, on the right side of the street, the east side of the street, there's a main entrance to the Ash Meadows over there too. When you get into the main building, which is relatively new, it's a beautiful building. It has a lot of displays over there, and they're always looking for people to come up there to tell you a little bit more about the Ash Meadows, the pupfish, and all the different endemic species that are up there. And it's just magnificent. The more the merrier.
It's a great visitor center for learning a lot, not only about the kind of Amargosa River and of course Ash Meadows, but kind of the whole river system. And also, they've worked really closely with the regional tribes, the Timbisha Shoshone, Southern Paiute tribes, who, Ash Meadows is a very important cultural site. And you can see a lot of that human history on display as well, which is remarkable. And they actually show a video in the Refuge Visitor Center that kind of tells the story of the refuge, how it came to be designated. And it's a good year to go explore, because it's the 40th anniversary of Ash Meadows being protected as a wildlife refuge. So there's a lot to celebrate right now, and it's a good time to get out there and enjoy it.
And because of things that have happened, you can't get close to the Devil's Hole anymore. It's caged off, and you could still see it, I think, from the cage, from the chain link fence there.
Yeah, you can, but honestly, there's better pupfish viewing opportunities in the refuge. I like going out to Point of Rocks. Is a good spring.
You'll be able to see them swimming next to you. And the fence and the protection has been there because of people that were stupid and did stupid things. But anyway, and it ruined it for us because I've gotten fairly close. I'm sure you can't. That's your job.
Well, right.
To get close.
Right. It's one of the perks of working in conservation is sometimes we get close to these remarkable species. But it's where going out to these other springs of Crystal, Point of Rocks, Fairbanks. You can get right up close to these pools of water and watch these pupfish. I wish there was like a live stream, where I could just have it on my computer and just watch them play in these springs all day. I think that would be popular. So, yeah.
So, any thoughts? We got a minute left.
Well, yeah, just, for me, again, looking at these pictures of Crystal Springs and, going down to places like Tacopa and seeing the waterfall, going up to Beatty and, really seeing the lush oasis that, lines the river. It just kind of reminds me we're all kind of living as one part of this big river community. And we might not always see the river in action, but, that's where it's been such a privilege to work in this community, because I just get to hear stories from folks from all over the area about their connections to the Amargosa. So, we just invite everyone to come join us. We try to offer events in person when we can, get people out on the land, see some of this remarkable wildlife we have. So, please connect with us. And, of course, we want to hear from you too. If you have stories, photos, memories of these places, we kind of thrive off of those things. So, please share them with us if you can. And that's my contact information. That's the best way to get a hold of me.
So that's, you have a Facebook page, right?
We have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So we're very findable.
You got all the bases are covered, yes.
Yep.
So that's very informative, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come down here to speak with us. And remember how to get up there, just take Bella Vista, and you could get into the Ash Meadows up there. So take the second entrance, and it'll be a little bit easier to get in there for you. They're open 7 days a week, I believe, during the hours that there's sunlight. So anyway, thank you once again, Mason.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for watching us on Community Viewpoint, and we'll see you next week.